in the famous words of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, in hopes that we wouldn't say it first, but truth must be told. And the ancestors are looking out for us. God Hayes is exposing them, man.
Okay, you see that chair right there? See how big it is?
Yeah.
Now look at the Pope chair under. Scroll down, look at the Pope chair under.
Never have it been made so clear.
Young TV. Young.
We running the game right now.
Young TV.
Time to take over.
Young
We the hottest in the game. Hit that like, hit that subscribe button. If you just not tuned in.
TV.
Share, like on your Instagram, Facebook.
Young TV.
If you tuned in, we broadcasting live from 2030, baby.
Young TV. Young
Taking over the game, baby. Oh yeah.
Young TV.
Hit that like.
Young TV.
Get them likes up in the air, you heard me?
Young TV.
Ride by. Hotel Islam.
Young TV.
Assalamu alaikum. Shalom alaikum.
Young TV.
Hit that like.
If you're just not tuning in, this is chasing the American pie, chasing the crumbles. Now, if you're new to the channel, hit that like right now, man. Hit that subscribe button and hit the bell, and check back with us every day for new information. We drop something every day. Now, if you've been with us for the last week or so, we've been putting out the history of United States Corps and how they came about. We put out all from the Declaration of Independence, the American Revolution, going into even to Queen Isabella, and going into Pocahontas. Tomorrow we'll be dropping the 13 colonies, and then from there we'll go into the first war. We already put the War of 1812, the Civil Wars out. So pretty much giving you a timeline on what happened, right? So that's what we pretty much brought you here tonight, to give you a rundown on a timeline of what we put together so far, leading us up all the way up into the American Revolution. Then you get, and like I say, we got more in-depth classes on all of these situations. On the video side, I'm just going to talk on them a little bit, give you a timeline on everybody coming to get their piece of the American pie, right? So, if you've been following us, and you can go back to the Majesties of America Part 1 that we put out in the Native American playlist, or in the Moral Science playlist, or in the Native American and Moral Science playlist. And you can get the Majesties of America. We put the tape out a long time ago, breaking that all this down about 6-7 years ago. Now, it all starts, for the people that ain't up to speed, it all starts with the Spanish Inquisition and the doctrine of discovery. That leads us into Timbuktu, 1476. It really, 1476 is really when they shook hands, when the dirty Moors shook hands and created their straw man or their front mans. Then we leading up to the Spanish Inquisition, the doctrine of discovery, Queen Isabella, who really started COINTELPRO operations, right? And Ferdinand, who really was a Moor. She, Queen Isabella, they were a mixed couple. So we showed y'all the pictures of it. And Queen Isabella used Ferdinand as her power, as her force to pretty much take down the Moors. And the last stronghold of the Moors was Granada, right? And reason why that was a stronghold is because the devil, or the so-called devil, couldn't get over here without having the stamps and seals and flag from Granada. They had to use the Granada flag to bypass the Berber Moors. We already put all this information out. Go get the tape called Queen Isabella Outsmarts the Berber Moors. And we already we got a whole tape coming out on the Berber Moors. You know what I'm saying? But once she got that flag, she was able to false flag, and that leads to 1492. Christopher Columbus able to come to America with the help of the Moors who navigated them over here, the Nino brothers, right? The Nino brothers. So 1492 is when keep in mind, at this point, Islam is already over here, right? Islam coming over here about around the 1300s, or a little bit, about the 1300s is when Islam come over here. So Islam has already made its way over here in the 1300s. Christianity wasn't over here yet. Christianity don't come to 1492 with Christopher Columbus, but it didn't get it really didn't get perpetuated on us until maybe like the late 1800s. Christianity didn't get really forced on us completely to the 1800s, right? So Christopher Columbus leads to all the other conquistadors and black in the Knights of Templars being able to get over here, right? When they can bypass the Moors. So it's sort of like the Berber Moors were like protecting the innocence of the Native Americans, because they kept the devil from getting over here for a while until the devil was able to outsmart them. All right. Meanwhile, speeding up to between 1492 and the 1500s, all the way for 100 years, you got different Moors helping these people to sell over here for a whole year till 1607. 1607 is when the first colonizers come to establish what they termed as Jamestown. Now, keep in mind, the people who sent these guys were the Virginia Company. They was a business. The Virginia Company was a business. Go look it up. Look up the Virginia Company. It was a business. And guess who owned that business? King James the First, the guy who put the King James Bible together. The first colony who came over here and exterminated natives and pretty much colonized them was sent by King James the First, the guy who put King James Bible together. And at the time he sent them, they had not yet put the King James Bible together, because they came in 1607 and they put the King James together in 1611. And they really put the King James together, the Virgin, to really bring it over here so they can enslave you with it, the Masons. But we'll get into that. Yeah, the Virginia Company of London, owned the shareholders. Main shareholder was King James the First of England, and he was King James of Scotland too, like the King James the Sixth of Scotland, or something like that too. But he was a Nubian. He was a Moor, a dark. King James was a dark-skinned brother, a Moor, a king of England, right? And so in 1607, he chartered. See, they handed out charters. What a charter is like a leasing agreement, or a business arrangement, or a contract. Pretty much, they handed out these charters. So King James chartered the Virginia, him and the Virginia Company which it was another group that was involved with the Virginia Company. They called themselves the investors, and they were pretty much more Zionist guys. The more Zionist guys were the other half of the investors with King James on the Virginia Company, who came over here in 1607 and set up Jamestown, named it after King James, the guy who put your King James Bible together, right? And when they got and for 8 months, they trained these guys in military warfare and espionage and pretty much all the same things they trained the COINTELPRO agents to do. And they had scientists who were trained in biological warfare. So when they got over here in 1607, they unleashed all of this on us, and it was all business, by the Virginia Company. And King James, that the Bible y'all read in church, all you Nubians, all the Bible y'all, you Hebrews teach from, say, oh, we like the King James. King James colonized y'all with the Bible. I'm telling you, listen to what I'm telling you. All right. Speeding up to, they were like say we break some of this stuff down in the Pocahontas tape where the Moors were impregnating the little girls, and back then, well, really the Native Americans didn't believe in abortion, so they had to keep the baby. So those babies became English and Native American. That's how they began working their way in. And Thomas Rolfe, Pocahontas' son, Monteoka's son, was the main character that they used to implement these English land rights, which we didn't have because we had tribal lands. We didn't sell land, so everything was a tribal land. So if you was a part of this tribe, that was your land. It wasn't no, oh, this is my land, this is my part, let me put a fence up. It wasn't no fences, right? So speeding up to the next colony, 1620. That's when after they had sent their goons over here to get set up and started knocking down some of the population, then the bad guys who were part of the more Zionist guys came over and landed on Plymouth Rock. And that's why Malcolm X said, we didn't land on Plymouth Rock landed on us, right? He was talking about them same guys who put the play on him eventually to get him up out of here once he found out the game, right? So now 1620, the next colony set up Plymouth Rock, speeding all the way up to all the 13 colonies being set up by 1732, which was the last colony set up was Georgia, which was the count of the Spanish down. The English were counting the Spanish down in Florida. Now keep in mind, all these colonies were businesses given charters by ultimately by England. Eventually all of them were given charters, which is a business arrangement. You know, banks got charters, right? All your cities over here got charters from the King of England. So the city of Philadelphia is a charter. It's a charter. It got a charter. You can go find a charter on it when it was established, and it's really a business. Just like United States Corp, all the cities are businesses, and it's a duke or earl, or somebody that's collecting on it ultimately, right? I don't want to go too deep because we got a lot of tapes coming out on this stuff that gonna explain it. Then I can go into it because I don't want to lose people on dukes, earls, right? And you got dukes, earls. It's a list of noble titles, which got banned in here banned over here in America by the 13th Amendment, and that's what the fuss was about, really, at one point. But like I said, all these colonies were chartered by King James ultimately. Some of them later by his son, King Charles. King James' son, King Charles, chartered some of them, and then his son, King Charles II, chartered some of them. So ultimately, all the 13 colonies go back to the Virginia Company and the Plymouth Rock Virginia Company, which is all owned by the Black Hand laws of London and ultimately the kings of England, the King of England. So they were businesses, and pretty much their whole game was because they had shareholders, and their whole game was the return that invested in the company, and they wanted returns from that. And so that pretty much set up your stock market right there. Investors in England invested in Virginia company so that they can come over here, capitalize off the natives, turn them into, enslave them, make them work the land, and they can make some whatever the commodity was, so they can sell it in exchange for other goods with natural wealth, right? And so ultimately the whole 13 colonies go back to England, to the crown, under different charters, right? So now, so in between when a little bit before the last colony was set up in the 1730s, that's a Georgia colony. King, I think, well, way before that, King Charles passed the Geneva Act, so they could transport slaves, convicts from other parts of the world that they had as convicts and white servitude, transfer them to other places where they had conquered the land, right, under the doctrine of discovery, and set up colonies where they would really pretty much set up businesses, and they needed to make some money. But the Moors who were running the colonies, they were getting lazy, and they didn't want to run the colonies, so they needed slaves. So at first they wasn't even enslaving the natives, because it was hard to enslave the natives. They would once they captured them, the natives would be out there working, and then they would disappear, and then they won't hear from them, don't see them no more. So it was hard to capture the natives at first. So they needed another plan. So what they did is created a work release program for the white convicts in England. And in 1715, King George I moved on the act of King Charles and started transporting convicts around the world. They transport them to Africa. This is after the Berbers Moor slave trade. Well, because they had a big slave trade. The Atlantic slave trade really was done by the Berbers, the Berber Moors, who were pirates and drug smugglers. And they ultimately today control the underworld, these guys, the under table, right? So 1715, King George started bringing white convicts over here to work the businesses, the 13 businesses they had set up, which were owned by private investors, which later became your 13 Federal Reserves, because it's 12 Federal Reserves, but then the 13th secret Federal Reserve is the white DC. It's in DC, right? Which is the U.S. Treasury, because they own the U.S., these guys. So the 13 colonies eventually turned into the take over and colonize the whole landmass, pretty much Turtle Island, and then turning into the United States courts, which was already it was only the 13 colonies were United States, not the whole land. The 13 colonies only had to colonize the coastline, and that became the United States after the American Revolution and the Declaration of Independence. They became your first part of United States. Wasn't the whole land. It was just the 13 colonies at first, right? But I'm going back to 1715 when King George I began bringing white convicts over here. And for 60 years, they worked on the tobacco farms and picked cotton, or whatever the business was that was set up in that area, it was fishing or whatever. They worked. They were supposed to get released in 7 years and get land grants from the King George them. But the Moors, they created loopholes in the paperwork, because the people who was over here doing white servitude, convicts and stuff, they didn't understand the loopholes and the legal system that the Moors had in depth. So the Moors were able to loophole them and keep them in it as indentured servants for past the 7 years. Some of them was for their whole life, and it was kind of like the same thing that that Suge Knight did to Tupac when Tupac came in there and tried to leave death row. He said, well, he put out a book from under the table and said, well, you owe me $2 million still, and before you leave, because you know I did all this. I bought you these girls. You remember this studio time, all this, right? He ran the list down and said that Tupac owed him a certain amount of money, and he couldn't leave until he paid him that money. Whereas kind of Moors did these convicts the same way, where they offered them a certain amount of land or whatever as a grant. And then when it came down for them to leave, they said, well, you remember that, you know what I'm saying, all that food, remember when you borrowed that money? And boom, that created them another 3-4 years. Then every time they would come to get off, they would extend the contract to where they just stayed in servitude until eventually, after 60 years, in 1773, they really got fed up with the bad deals that they was getting from King George now, and at this time it was King George III, and which are of England. Keep in mind, this whole system is based on the charters that were based from England, right? All right, and so when they get fed up with King George III, who was a Moor, he was the last Moor ruler of Great Britain before they usurped him and his whole family and then switched him out with the replacements. The replacement is Queen Victoria. Queen Victoria is when the replacement happened. And from Queen Victoria down, it's how you get the people you see now in Great Britain as the royal family. They wasn't the royal family before 1837. The Moors ruled Great Britain. Great Britain was the Moorish Empire all the way up, and it still is the Moorish Empire secretly, all the way up into really to 1837, when the Knights of Templar pretty much exterminated the King George Williams, the whole family. Only person that escaped was Prince Williams, and that's because he came to America and changed his name several times to hide from the Knights of Templar. Eventually, his name, one of his names, becomes Frederick Douglass. We'll just leave that on you, right? Frederick Douglass was one of his names. Just go back and think about why if they selling you the slave narrative, why did Frederick Douglass back then have so high ranking in government if Negroes was just coming out of slavery? So you got to put it together. So, what happens is they got, like I said, they got fed up with King George. They want to cut the Moors off, and so they started a war. And some of the native tribes helped these guys because they were because these Moors had colonized them, and they hadn't forgot the 120 years of the colonization of the 13 colonies, where it was wars and how they exterminated them, pretty much using biological warfare and all of the, the whole nine. And so it was like a conflict between these Moors that from England and the natives. And so some of the native tribes helped the white convicts fight against these Moors to rid themselves of the British. That's what the red coats are really, the British. I mean the Moors, right? The Moors, the British, the Moors, they all the same people, right? Barif means covenant. So you say Great Britain, that means the covenant, the Great Covenant, right? Check that out, right? And then if you go into so then once they fought against the Moors and they didn't beat them, the Moors outsmarted them. The Moors just let them think that they won, and then they just used legal jargon to tie them back into a whole nother paradigm, right? And so they left them into that paradigm still, and they allegedly declared their independence, but the independence was chartered from England. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you independent, but you still got to pay us. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's a contract. The Declaration of Independence is a contract. The Constitution is a contract. The Bill of Rights is a contract. It's all business. It ain't nothing personal about it. Now, don't take none of this personal that I'm telling you. It's all business. King James that put the Bible together that you people reading today. Anybody that's going around teaching pretty much Christianity at this point in America is part of the colonizers. Well, let's say if they're teaching it to people who are natives, you know what I'm saying? You can teach it to colonizers, can teach colonizers Christianity, you know what I'm saying? But it's like that part. And it's but when Islam came over here, Islam didn't come in a hostile format. It came in a peaceful format. And how I'm gonna tell you how Islam came over in the 1300s and how it come over. It come over with people who were Muslims who mixed in with us, and their children became Muslims, and that's how Islam get over here. And the Muslims that brought it over here was Abu Bakr and Mansa Musa. They were Muslims, right? And they go back to straight from the blood. Abu Bakr tied into the bloodline of Muhammad and Bilal now, right? Abu Bakr II, right? So they brought Islam over here, and they children, when they mixed in, and they were called the Mandingas, and that's really who the Barbers are. The Barbers are really the Mandingas. They are a mix between 3 different tribes, and the aggressiveness that they got where they were rowdy, that came from another tribe called the tribe of Shabazz, who when they mixed in with the two chain group that was there, which was the Dogons and another group called the Dinkas from Sudan. They migrated right there and mixed in, and you get the Dogons and the Dinkas mixed, and then these tribe of Shabazz, who were the Moors from Ur Chaldea, they jumped in and mixed in with them, and boom, created a whole nother tribe called the Mandingas. The Mandingas really were the ones that were doing creating the boats, and they were the warriors, the fighters, and that created the Berbers from North Africa, because they were right there in West. I mean, yeah, it was West North Africa. It's where these Mandingas come out of, right? And so, speeding back up, like I said, they cut King George off 1775, 1776, the Declaration of Independence, which really was a charter from England. And then, boom, from that point, once they could essentially thought that they had got King George out their back, they then turned on us, on the natives, and started wanting to colonize more of our land and expand their business adventures. And so their business adventures expand, but all the charters for all the companies. It's like this: how you gonna cut somebody off who is the original proprietor of the Virginia company, King James them, and then all the way down to King George, the same people who are Nubians, Moors, they were the proprietor of the Virginia company and the Plymouth company and a couple more other companies secretly, like the East India Company, right? And some of the main investors were these Lords of London, and we ain't got to get down. You already know who the Lords of London is, right? And so that's the whole get back. So eventually, like I said, this turned into the 12 federal districts. Really, it was 13 counting DC, and it's the 13 colonies. It's all connected, right? And keep in mind, Woodrow Wilson signed the Federal Reserve Act on 1913. So that 13 popped back up again because the Federal Reserve Act is connected. So they keep in mind, like the number 13 is encoded. You got the 13 families, right? The number, the letter M, right, or M&M, right, goes with the Masonic principles, right? So it's all connected. So we leading up to 1812 when they found out. 1812 is when we found out that King George and them still was running the whole show. And that's what caused the second American Revolution, which is the War 1812. We got that whole tape kicked down on the other side. The War 1812 that's when because America was in bankrupt after the American Revolution, and they still they got into a war with these guys, but they borrowed money from the same guys. They borrowed money from the guys to go to war with these guys. So they still owed these guys, and the bankruptcy was supposed to be up in 1812, but the charter wasn't revamped, and pretty much King George is gonna lose his money. So he sent his goons in. He sent his goon squad back in to burn the White House down and all the records down. And pretty much so they wouldn't have no records of the contract. So he can still say, oh, yeah, well, the contract is still this or that, right? And so, and pretty much they came to another agreement where they locked back in with King George, and King George called off his goons at 1812. Right? Then it came down to Abraham Lincoln pulled the next stunt in 1865 with the Civil War, which was funded by these same guys, the Lords of London, the same guys who owned the Virginia Company, who set up the 13 colonies, funded the Civil War. Keep in mind the guys in England, right? And so what happens is, Abraham, they had the 13th Amendment set up in the contract where London owned, where really it was, they had it as the under the doctrine of discovery. Really, it goes back to London, but it was connected to Christian chattel property. But what Abraham Lincoln did is cut the guys off, which they eventually changed the contract around and got back in there with the 14th Amendment. Right, but Abraham Lincoln, he didn't end slavery. What he did is he cut them off from them owning the property, owning the people, right, as chattel property, and then transfer the chattel property over to Congress. He thought he was doing something slick, but he really never. The Moors had loopholes set up for everything. So as soon as he thought he got out of that loophole and transferred the Christian property to Congress, the Moors still had the contract on that too. They got the contract on Congress too. You know what I'm saying? So they still locked in getting the cut out the deal. When they made everybody subjects to U.S. citizens, U.S.'s government U.S. is owned by the England. So they put everybody back, still put them back onto the crown. But they cut the Pope out a little bit though. Cut the Pope cut. All they did is cut the Pope. All Abraham Lincoln did is cut the Pope cut down a little bit. Pope was getting a little bit more. Now he ain't getting that much. The crown getting it. You ever wonder why when you go to the gas station to buy gas, it says, and they say you paying $3 a gallon, but then you look up at the side, it says 9/10 of a gallon. So where's that 1/10 of a gallon going? Have you ever thought about that? Wherever that 1/10 of a gallon? Somebody getting you for 1/10 of a gallon. Every gallon you cop, man. Where's that gallon going? It's going to the crowns in England, man. I'm telling you. You better overstand the game. So like I say, Abraham Lincoln pulled this stunt, pretty much bankrupt them to where they had to refile in 1871 out of Puerto Rico, refile United States courts, and that landed Abraham Lincoln and anybody that was connected with him a bullet, death by bomb. You know what I'm saying? I'm telling you, because Abraham Lincoln tried to get in bed with the Russians, and that's these guys, the guys in London. That's their main guys that they hate. You know what I'm saying? They hate Russia. These guys, especially in the connections with the Germans and Adolf Hitler. So leading up to man, so where we at now? Abraham Lincoln, boom. They had to they go back into bankruptcy because they from Civil War put them back into debt, locking them back into the crown. Then all the way up into like 1933, they really got into a bind in 1929 and 28 during the 1920s, late 1920s, because they were capitalizing off the people. They were capitalizing off the people as human resource. But Noble Drew Ali stuck a finger. Noble Drew Ali stuck a finger in their plan is because he went to the international conference in Havana and claimed the land back and put it in the deed. I'm just fast tracking. We got all this. We got the story of Noble Drew Ali in the Native American playlist, the whole story, right? And we got tapes on this information if you want to get more in depth on it. Once Noble Drew Ali claimed the land back, put it in a trust, boom, that locked them out of the land because they had the land too. They had the land too, but that locked them out the land, and pretty much that bankrupted them. Because soon they got rid of Noble Drew Ali in 1929. And then that same year, a couple months later, after they picked Noble Drew Ali off, the stock market crashed. And when the stock market crashed, they needed another plan. And so they had to put the humans back up for collateral. And that's where they created the birth certificate, social security cards, and all that. And boom. And then they pulled the biggest gold heist in ever, which is Executive Order 6102, I think it is. 6102 by Franklin D. Roosevelt, who was a killer clown. And you know how they killer clowns is just what it sounds like. And you know how they get down. Shout out Commando Squad. Oh yeah, he gonna get that. It's coming up. We in the crunch now. Shout out that boy Commando Swan. Yeah, so they pulled the biggest gold heist ever. We got a whole tape on it called the biggest gold heist in the world. Where they heist the Americans' gold for the Lords of London and the Crown. Right? And you can get a whole tape on it. It's like a 45, 47-minute tape on it on the video side, breaking down the whole storyline on how they cleaned us out of our natural wealth, switched us to a fiat currency. So really nobody got no money. Nobody ever paid off no debts. You never paid any bills because you can't pay nothing with no money. Green dot paperback credit cards, all this is no money. Real money is commodity money, gold, silver, etc. And that money is supposed to be backed by that. But, they created this matrix system to create the monopoly type money. And people are actually killing people over this. People actually kill people over paper money. Paper monopoly money. And then not only they do it over paper monopoly money, they do it for less than $5 or $10. Oh, it ain't about the money. It's about the respect. The respect on the monopoly money. The respect on this illusionary money. It's about the respect on it. Boy, if that ain't a spell, what is? What is a spell? If that ain't a one. Huh? If that ain't a spell, what is? It says, hey, look, man, appreciate that, Peyton. Appreciate that, Peyton. Yeah, so somebody told me that once before, a long time ago. I think I probably got way more information since then. That was about almost 6-7 years ago when somebody said that the last time I didn't really charged up by now. Yeah. So boom, stock market crash, boom. That's when they put everybody up for collateral. They lose the land, and they've been running the game ever since. All the way up until 1999, where the last bankruptcy, the third final bankruptcy happened, where they lost everything because some extraterrestrials, the Najarus, passed down some information to a dude named Russell J. Gould. Listen to the last name, Gould. The word gold translated into Netaru, Najaru, which means the gods, same as Elohim and all that. So Russell J hyphen J Goul means Russell J, the god, or the Netaru, or the Najarus. So the Najarus stepped in, gave this dude quantum linguistics so that he could translate all all these different. They translated all the Masonic books, the old Masonic books, and all the law books, and all the contracts, the government contracts, into quantum linguistics, and pretty much set the whole New World Order down. So the New World Order ended in the year 2000. The devil rule ended in the year 2000. And in 2001, he was supposed to vacate, but he got an extension. Why? Because they created another war to create another extension. The war in Iraq was to put us back, keep us into the extension, which led us to 2022 or 2021, November 3rd, which pretty much ended the deal completely, which is why Donald Trump come in as the liquidator to liquidate U.S. assets and pretty much close out the contract completely, and giving America real independence. America really never had no real independence from no other nation, especially not England. The Postmaster General still getting his cut. He getting his slice off of everything. Man, you better not be doing nothing if the Postmaster General, the King of England, ain't getting the cut off of it. And it was the Queen before he turned into King Charles, whoever the guy is now, the Prince, King Charles or whatever. He became the king after his mother passed. But everybody's getting cut off. The head's been cut off the snake since 1999. And they really what we're dealing with is the last, like Doc said, it'll be 2030. He got a 30-year extension. And so it'll be 2030, the devil rule will be completely up. So his rule was supposed to be up in year 2000, but he got a 30-year extension. And so his rule is completely up in the year 2030. And this, by the time Donald Trump get out of office, that'll be close to that year. So that's why we're telling you this Donald Trump, really the last president was Bill Clinton. But Donald Trump ain't no president. President translate into Duke. Or really governor translate into Duke, and president translate into Duke in noble language. Just like Esquire translate into lawyer. But they had to change all their titles around because it was the Duke of New York. He set up the New York colony under King Charles, the charter of King Charles. So just going back, everybody came over here to get their slice of the American pie. The 13 colonies still exist as the United States Corps in the Federal Reserve. 1913. You see the connection? 13 colonies, 1913 Federal Reserve Act, 13 Federal Reserve districts. When you include DC, it's the 13th. So everybody came over to get their 13 slices. Everybody came to get their 13 slices, and it was all business. All initially led by the Virginia Company, which was owned by the King of England and the Lords of London, who were private investors, which just so happened to be more Zionist guys when you trace it all the way back. And they own BlackRock, they own the Hilton's hotels, because the Hilton's hotels guys, brothers, who were actually some Moors, who because they children, it's like this. The Moors began marrying Caucasian women, and then their children became mulattoes, and then no mulattoes married Caucasian women. And then by the 3 or 4 generations, you see people who are all pale, but their ancestors are Moors. Their ancestors were wealthy Moors, and they inherited the wealth. And you wonder why are so many Caucasian people over here so rich? It's because they inherited the wealth from the Moors who came over here and colonized us. The 13 colonies were started by all Moors from England. Really initially King George I, who wrote the King James Bible in 1611 to use as a tool. The Masonic, it's a Masonic encoded book. Or really, the King James Bible is a Masonic encoded charter by King James and the 46 guys he hired, excluding William Shakespeare, who was his lover, allegedly his lover. So the King James version of the Bible was made to colonize you if you're a Native American. Christianity, you got colonized into that. You could get mad and say you spiritual, you connected with Jesus and all this. You could get mad, but the truth is the truth in 2025. We was over here for a long time, and the devil brought Christianity to force us into it. So you can keep going with it if you want, but once you hear the truth, you can't unknow it. You can't go on. You can't unknow something that you heard. You can't unhear something that you heard. So we told you the truth, and this ain't if you want to still go along with the colonizers and still promote the colonizers' ideology, we just gonna know who you is when the time comes for the big payback. You part of the colonizers. So they use these so-called black Negro leader guides to keep the game going. To keep you came from a slave, and I'm black and I'm proud, and these different things. What tribe? What the gamer? Do you know what tribe, Elder? What tribe? What? Yeah, but the Devil Rule was up. Yeah, that's right. Devil Rule was up June 6, 1999. His game, and that's the dates that these guys claim shut down the New World Order by claiming calling the Benjamin Franklin Post Office and claiming they abandoned flag. Go watch the tape we just put out called "The Last Flag in the Spirit of Truth." In Spirit and Truth, and that tape break down how Russell J. Hyphen claimed the flag and pretty much ended the New World Order. And then when George W. Bush died, he gave everybody a letter at his funeral telling them that the game is up, that they know now, they know everything. We lost. You better go back and read Revelations chapter 12 verse 7, where it says Michael and his angels fought against the dragon and his angels, but the dragon and his angels prevailed not. And then after that, it was no place found for them. So right now, there's no place found for the devil because his time is up. He lost. See, just like we told you, he was gonna lose. He lost. We've been told you he lost before the whole game started. So at this point, all we waiting on is enough mass awareness of all this information, the whole game. So if you're new to the channel, go and watch the last 10 tapes I put out on the video side. It gives you the whole breakdown, and I got 2 more tapes coming out tomorrow, which is the breaking down the 13 colonies and how it was all businesses and how they were chartered by pretty much stemming down from King George I, who put the King James Bible together in 1611 to bring it over here to colonize you with. And like I say, Revelations wasn't a part of the Bible. They took a lot of books and put them together. See, a lot of information in the Bible is true information. It's just that the intentions initially of what they was going to use it for. because the Immaculate Conception is a true story that goes back to ancient Kemet. The story of Haru, Nana, and Aset, and Osiris or Osir. All of them, the Christianity really is an ancient religion that goes back to the Dogons people in ancient Kemet. So Christianity was our stuff. They just took it. The Greeks took it, the Romans put a spin on it, and then regurgitated it back to you with all making everybody they look like them, and changing some of the storylines around and making more when it wasn't no story. It was okay. Cyrus was took out by his evil brother, and so the scientists back then in ancient Kemet used artificial assimilation to take his sperm count and give it to Inanna. The Greeks interpreted it as, because they saw a bird, they saw this bird, because in ancient Kemet we had what they call a ba, which is represented as birds, because B is the first letter in bird, and ba, and even over here we had the same connection, because over here in ancient Kemet too, because this is ancient Kemet too, the birds were spirits. In Native American culture, the birds are the spirits. So on the papyrus, you see a bird flying from Osiris' sarcophagus and landing on Inanna, and that's an assimilation of the spirit. So they took that and said, "Oh, that's a Holy Spirit," and they even took and made it into a dove in their teachings, made the Holy Spirit into a dove, and then they said, "Well, she got impregnated by a spirit, by a spirit." So that means that this spirit was it was God's spirit, it was the Holy Ghost, because Osiris is called God in ancient Kemet. So they said that God spirit impregnated Mary, who was really Inanna, Isis, the virgin. Right? She wasn't a virgin, but you know what I'm saying? But she impregnates Inanna, and boom, she births, have Immaculate Conception, births the son Haru, who becomes your Jesus, your son God. We got all this stuff already broke down. So Christianity actually goes back before the Romans, the mans who roam, the Arabs, those who roam, the Moors, those who had the knowledge of the stars to be able to roam and travel by the stars. So, and keep in mind, as we go through all this, all Moors are not dirty Moors. You got righteous Moors, and then you got dirty Moors. Noble Jew Ali will be classified as a righteous Moor. Benjamin Banneker Bay will be classified as a dirty Moor, who was really a secret agent for England. Benjamin Banneker was a secret agent for England, for Great Britain, working with George Washington, who was a Moor, a secret agent for both of them were Moors, and they wasn't from America. They both were from Barbados. They was recruited out of Barbados. Benjamin Banneker, he got recruited out of Barbados, but he actually came to America when he was a baby. His father was from West Africa. His father was a Mandinga, coming from the same tribe as Abu Bakr and Mansa Musa now. He with his mother in Barbados. And then when he was a baby, his dad, he was a little bit wealthy. So he and his mother, his dad and his mama left with him as a baby and came to America. And that's when Benjamin Banneker got trained by the more Zionist guys. Matter of fact, I'm going to put the whole story. I already got the whole story out already in one of them playlists of the Benjamin Banneker, the whole story. But I'm going to redo it and put the whole story as one tape and put more better pictures and things to it. So I got the whole story out. But he got trained. Benjamin Banneker got trained by more Zionist Jews, and he was an agent for the British Crown and George Washington. And he met George Washington. Him and George Washington became friends in Barbados when they went to college. They went to college together. George Washington and Benjamin Banneker went to college together. And because Benjamin Banneker used to go back and visit his family, and he ended up over in his mother's people over in his uncle. He used to go back and stayed with his uncle during the summer in Barbados, and that's where he went to college at, and that's where he met George Washington, who was a Moor too. And George Washington ended up signing up in 1751 to the British army. Him and his brother Augustine's, and they were Augustines, and his last name wasn't Washington. Him and Benjamin Banneker came out with to change his last name to Washington so that he could become president, because they had a rule on the book that you had to be born in America to become a president. Back then, they had that same rule on the rule book. So it was Benjamin Banneker's idea to change his name to Washington, George Washington, and they changed it to that about a year or two before he became president. Check that out. And so that's how Benjamin Banneker and George Washington get hooked up with setting up Washington, D.C., because they were both agents for the British Crown. Yeah, nah. See, he was part. See, Benjamin Banneker, shout out that boy, real, right? Benjamin Banneker, he had African in him through his father, who was from West Africa. So his father was from West Africa, who was a Moor. His father was a Moor from West Africa, and then his mother was from Barbados. And so his dad ended up leaving West Africa and coming to Barbados, and that's where he met Benjamin Banneker's mother. And Benjamin Banneker was born in Barbados, and then they moved while Benjamin Banneker was like 1-2 years old, maybe 3. They came to America. I think it was Maryland or Virginia, one of them areas, and his neighbors were the Moor Zionist Jews guys. A Moor Zionist Jew lived next door to Benjamin Banneker, and a Moor Zionist Jew had a library, and he had a telescope. He had telescopes at his house, and so Benjamin Banneker used to go over to this dude's house, play with his son, and play with the telescopes and read, stay in the library. And so that's who's trained him. The guy with the Moor Zionist Jew guy trained Benjamin Banneker. And that's how he ended up writing an almanac, creating a clock, a whole bunch of stuff. And what they was to do is, in order to cover up Benjamin Banneker's mission, they created another guy as the fall guy, and they put him back 100 years, and his name was Benjamin Banneker. Benjamin Banneker never existed. Benjamin Banneker is really Benjamin Franklin. I mean, Benjamin Franklin is really Benjamin Banneker. They'll tell you that Benjamin Franklin created a clock and he wrote an almanac, and then they push him back 100 years. Then they tell you about Benjamin Banneker wrote a clock and an almanac, and you don't see the connections of how they Walter Plecker, Horace Greeley, and the whole New York Tribune and all these guys try to rewrite and change everybody's colors and pretty much lose us in the sauce on what's going on. But we are here today. Free Malachi Z. York, though, because without Malachi, we wouldn't be on the at this point where we at now. What we got the game pretty much laced down and figured out. So free Dr. Malachi Z. York, and we got something coming out on Doc's birthday. It's gonna be dope. And if we know Trump them be listening, somebody said this to Trump, man. Trump need to pardon Dr. Malachi Z. York, right? And yeah, man. So that's what it is. That's what we at now. And we're gonna keep on building the timeline up for you until we get it all the way built up to right now. And like I said, we got most of all the information already laced up. We just got to put the 13 colonies out, World War I and World War II, and that pretty much gave you the beginning of this paradigm called the United States Corporation, which started as the 13 colonies, which was separate from the land. They were all businesses chartered by the King of England. You see what I'm saying? That's the game, man. So we'll take some questions, man, before we get up out of here. We got any questions? Y'all on TV, man. Who else is doing it for you, man? Who else is doing it? Everybody came to get their slice of the American pie. What y'all got for me out there, man? YouTube land. Who else is breaking it down like this? Besides the pioneers. Hey, shout out the master teacher, Taj Tariq Bey. right? One of our master teachers. Because Tashariq Bey is who I learned a lot of the stuff from about the moral science. He was our teacher on the moral science. He our master teacher in the school of moral science. So go look up Tashariq Bey and study all of his classes. And a long time ago, well, every time I go on long trips, I used to just turn on Tashariq Bey tapes and just put them in my headphones, listen to them, fall asleep to them over and over again. And some of the stuff I ain't think that I retained, but it's funny how the brain works, because a lot of stuff when I'm reading, like when I'm going over some that I heard Tashariq Bey say in the tape, it come back up, and it's like I hear him word for word. So it's like all of the stuff is just who else is doing it? Who else is got all of that stuff, like putting all of it together like this? Like we already taught most of all the extraterrestrial, the basic extraterrestrial information, and we're trying to get this. We're getting this Native American, the Native American playlist finished, and then once we get that, we'll jump back into some more extraterrestrial stuff. But the extraterrestrial stuff, we ain't getting that many plays off of it, so we're thinking that people thinking that we crazy, and they ain't really ready for the extraterrestrial stuff yet. Some people are ready for the extraterrestrial stuff, right? But we got a bunch of extraterrestrial stuff to put out, right? A whole bunch of extraterrestrial stuff to put out, man. Like I could just pretty much start just putting out extraterrestrial tapes every day and be doing it for a while, for a couple years. Because there's so many races, it's so many angles to spin them, so many combinations. How many combinations of 4 can you make with 1 through 100? That's a lot of combinations. Or 1 through 1,000. How many combinations can you make with 1 through 1,000? You know what I'm saying? That boy, I'll tell you what, that boy Haru, my son Haru, he sharp on outer space. Like when you ask him, hey, what's a galaxy? He say, oh, galaxies a whole bunch of suns held together by gravitational pull. And then you ask him, hey, what's a solar system? Well, solar system is what we live in. Hey, so he very interested in outer space and galaxies and moons and suns and how they created, how they work. That's all really he interested in is outer space. He don't want to talk about nothing else. He interested in different types of suns, neutron suns, this and that type of stuff. So I'm gonna pretty much do some more tapes for him so he can study more of this stuff, because he ain't more into my galactica stuff. It says, yeah, everything is happening right now as we speak. It's just that people they set us up with this fast food. So we all used to driving up and ordering your food and getting it in less than 5 or 10 minutes. So the fast food chains gave us wanting everything. Hey, I want mine. I don't want to have to wait. I want it right now. That's why I don't like Amazon. You got to wait a couple, 2-3 days. And then when they came out with the next day, I was like, oh, that's up my alley. Everything we ordered we wanted the next day. I'll be able to go get it right then. You know what I'm saying? So the fast food generation is pretty much, they want everything to see it right. I want to see the elites go down right now. I want to see this happen now, right now, or the government fall, all this. Everything really is already happening. And if we spin now backwards, it means we already won. But everything is really already happened already. It's just that we just waiting on the people to catch up to what already happened. We need what you call the awareness of the masses. Once the awareness of the masses happen, boom, the switch automatically happen. We only need a certain amount of people to be aware of what's already transpired over between 1478 all the way up into now, really. All the way up until 1999, really, to year 2000. The sick devil has 6,000 years to rule. Now his rule is up in the year 2000. And then he got a 30-year extension to close out all his contracts. So right now, the devil got closing out all his contracts. That's why people that owe him on them death oaths, he coming to take them out. They all of a sudden, you see all these celebrities dying mysteriously or getting some weird freak accident. It's because the devil coming to collect. Just like he came to collect on Evil Knievel, who was doing all them stunts, and the devil protected him. And now he came to collect. Go back and get my tape called, I got a tape called 6,000 Years Is Up, the time to collect. And then I talk about how the devil come to collect on all his contracts. He closing out all of his contracts for the last 30. He got 30 years to close out his contracts. 30 minutes. Right? So everybody losing, getting cut out these deals. That's why everything is getting closed out. If you owe the devil or you made a deal with him, now it's time to play up that booty that you owe. You owe him some booty. He said, I'm gonna let you borrow for 20 years. Well, when the 20 years is up, you're gonna have to give me some booty. Now, some people in their contract by 2 or 3, by 1 year and a half in the balling, the devil want to get in on that part right then. Because you gotta keep in mind, pirates love booty. And people might be going vulgar, but booty is loot and gold in the natural wealth in the pirate world. And these guys pretty much live by it. They live by booty. I'm telling you, man. And they was getting, and the Barber Moors was getting booty with anybody that wasn't Muslim Moors. If you want a Muslim Moor, you was free game and free booty. You know what I'm telling you? I'm telling you, man. Don't believe me. Go look it up. Booty is how they say it. They spell it B-U-T-E. Booty. You know what I'm saying? These Moors. But it says, okay, so yeah, but so what we're pretty much dealing with is the truth, all the truth coming out, and we can't go backwards. We only can go forward. So, like saying, okay, trying to identify who colonizers and who not, and then trying to kick the colonizers off, we don't got to worry about that. The universal frequency that's going to change over Tamaray, because this is what the name of the land really is. Because when they came over here, the people in the Lapi people, or the Lampi people, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but they was in the area you call Virginia and all that, Delaware and all that area, and they called when the people came and asked them what they call the land, they said the land was Tamaray, and then they took that and changed it to Tamiri, the Latin, the conquistadors, the Spanish changed it to Tamiri. Right? They said Tamaray. That's what they called it. And then they changed it. The Spanish said in Latin, Tamiri. And then that translated it into Maryland, the land of Mary. That's what Maryland really is, the land of Mary, Tamiri. Right? So Maryland, the people in the Native American tribes in Maryland called this land Tamiri, the land of Mary, or the land of Mary, which became Maryland. Right now today, this whole land was Maryland, the land of Mary, Mary's land. Right? Anana, Big Mama. Anana is Big Mama. And that's why they got that chair at the Vatican sitting over the other, they call it the chair of St. Peter's. And they got a little chair sitting at the bottom. That's the Pope chair, but they got that chair high off the ground to make sure nobody, especially a male, sit in that chair. You better not sit up in Big Mama's chair. Noble Ali said they bump from the left. Said it's on and we there. When we knock, better bump straight. When we knock, better bump straight. Watch me. Knock him. Bump him for his fizz. Crooked man walking. We walking on the edge. At Big Mama's house. Pull up in the back. Cut the music down. Got the bass in the lap. Play cool and all that. Not gonna fall hat. I'm with Skype, babe, man. We taking the ball back. Hit him with the circle and the square. You better not sit up in Big Mama's chair. Noble Drew Ali said they bomb from the left. Ain't no more extensions. Their last extensions was 30 years. See, his time is actually already up. So it ain't no more extensions. His time is up. Then he got the last extension. Ain't no more extensions. It don't matter if we don't get enough of mass awareness or not. His time is up. The only problem that's gonna happen is that the people that ain't became aware, they could go into get sucked into or stay into the old system and or the old resonance. While the people that's all mass aware, see, once we get enough people that's mass aware, the mindset of the mass awareness is gonna rid them. It's the power of minds. It's the power of the unity of minds. The power of the unity of consciousness. Consciousness is more the unity of consciousness. That's why they always try to keep us separated. That's why they created so many different sects of Christianity. You got Catholics, you got Baptists, you got non-denominational, Episcopalics, all these different sects. Then you got all these different sects of Islam. You got all these different sects of Judaism. And so the devil, his whole strategy is conquer and divide and conquer. So his whole thing was to keep us from utilizing coming together as and unifying as one mind, one band, one sound. So he know that's Tahuti method. One band, one sound. Tahuti started that. And Tahuti is Ningazita. And Ningazita is Murdoch's brother. Murdoch is the angel Michael. And so Tahuti was fighting with Michael and his angels against the dragon and his angels. And he alludes to that fact in the Emerald Tablets when he said that, man, what we teaching you is going to be some dudes that going to come. They're going to be called the brothers of the darkness. And they're going to be the dark energy. And he's really alluding to the Dragon reptilians, the dragons, right? Which is like, because we said Michael and his angels fought against the dragon. So Tahuti was in the Emerald Tablets was talking about these dragon people who were going to come and they were going to be bringing dark energy in to the vortex. In the Emerald Tablets, he alluded to that fact. But yeah, man. But in other words, that's pretty much the whole rundown, get down on the beginning of people wanting to get a slice of the American pie. Christopher Columbus said we had crystal clear waters over here that you could drink right off. Now the water is so black you can't even see in it, and you better not go drink it, right? He said that we had beautiful jungles and forests. Now they cut all that down and turn it into a desert. They cut all the trees down. Came over here cutting trees down, trying to build up their colonies. We didn't build colonies out of trees. We never did cut the trees. Trees was part of our biological survival because the oxygen content in Earth got to stay at 21%. Once it starts going below 21%, you start to suffocate and deform. Deform first, then suffocate and croak out. So we knew that the trees converted the carbon to oxygen. This is a scientific fact. Ain't no arguments about it. Everybody should know this. That's kindergarten science. And so we didn't cut down the trees. We didn't build our home by the trees. Remember the story of the 3 little pigs. And think of the big bad wolf as hurricanes, storms. And all the houses they built, except the one out of brick, got blew over by the big bad wolf. So we use bricks. We use stone. What you think the pyramids made of? The stepping stone pyramids and pyramid for this, we use stone to build. And we already had stone structures thousands of years before they came over here. Talking about we was living in some teepees and walking around with thongs on. Talking about we were savages. And if we and they say we were savages because we ain't anybody that wasn't Christian is a savage. And under the doctrines of discovery and the Papal Bulls. You know what I'm saying? But we over here laying stone for thousands of years. We was already Freemasons. They really not no Freemasons. They speculative guys. We the real operative guys. We the ones been laying the stone for thousands of years. And so that part, yeah, we've been laying the mounds for thousands of years. We the mound builders. We the builders that got hit in the head. Right? The hiring at Biff's, right? And Hiram, it's like High Ram, the Aries, the age of Aries, High Ram, the Ram, age of Ram, which is dealing with Murdoch, because it goes back to Amun, who is really Murdoch, and Amun ruled during the age of Aries, which is why he got the ram head in ancient Kemet. And I keep on saying, and they really saying ancient Kemet over there, but this really ancient Kemet. Because and they classify that as being ancient Kemet because they say the Pyramid, because of the Giza plateau and the pyramids. But those are not, those really are the oldest pyramids, because Tahuti built those pyramids first, but they weren't built by they were built by Tahuti now. But some of the oldest pyramids and the largest pyramids and the most pyramids in the world is found in America. And the oldest mummies is found in America. And it's a whole bunch of other stuff we could do. We got a whole tape out already on this called America, the True Egypt of the West, on the video side. And it's in the Native American Chief playlist, the playlist. So what we getting at here with this tape right here? What we getting at? We getting at that America was the heaven. It was a heavenly place before 1492, and so the devil was able to get over here, man. After 1492, we was having a good time before then, and we was already mixing in with other races like the Hoshin and the Africans was already coming over here mixing in before the colonizers and slavery and all of it. The whole slavery idea, the Africans is already coming over here. We proved that. You can look Google Mansa Musa and Abu Bakr, who sailed to America in the 1310s. The Huns, they came over here way before all of this. So it's a whole bunch of groups that came over here and was allowed to get the one drop. And so that's why it was so many different tribes that had so many different features. And inherited land through the matriarch system from the mother line. And like I say, they inherited land as a family, as a tribe, not as an individual. We didn't have individual land plots over here. If you were the Chata tribe, this was the Chata land, that was your land. And then the big mama on that land say, oh, well, you go set up over yonder. Oh, he said his house, so he built his farm over there, and you farm the land out over there. And they had thousands of acres. Everybody had 1,000 acres. It was so much land. But the colonizers saw that to take advantage of it as a business endeavor. It was all business endeavors. So the United States is a corporation pretty much that goes back to the Virginia Company, owned by the King of England, starting with King James I, who put the King James Bible together, and the other investors, which are the Lords of London. And that's who we're dealing with. Oh, raw. And on that note, it says, how long were we? So it went, okay, so it says, how long were we warring with the colonizers? All right, so from 1492, we weren't really warring with them. They really was studying us from 14, they were coming over here kidnapping some people to study them, to study their blood type. And that's what led them up to the 1607, creating all the germ warfare that they know they had already kidnapped a whole bunch of people from over here over the 100 years, right? All the way up from 1492 to 1607, they were kidnapping natives, coming over here studying the spying on us. And that's what Christopher Columbus is all about. Christopher Columbus was a spy for the Inquisition. And so they would kidnap people and then they take them back over there. And then they would test them to certain germs and bacteria. And so they knew what the natives were allergic to or couldn't handle because of the people they had kidnapped. And they said, so if we take this syphilis and this smallpox over here, we can wipe them out. And so that's what they trained the 1607 crew of Virginia with King James group, 105 people. They came over here knowing a whole bunch already about us. They had studied us for 100 years. And so at 1607 is when the colonization really starts. And then from that point, all the way up into 1732, they set up the last colony, 13 colonies. And then from that point, from 1715 all the way up until 1775, the white convicts start assimilating their, and they pretty much took over and overthrew the Moors and ran them out. And then once they got rid of the Moors, they turned everybody in history white, and then assimilated the same, turned on us and started wanting to take our stuff after the Declaration of Independence. And to me, the Moroccan Moors helped United States Corps, the 13 colonies, to try to backdoor Great Britain so they can get a cut off the New Deal. They like some snakes. We're gonna backdoor Great Britain, man, and get us cut out that deal. Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's genocide. Nikki Love is genocide. I wonder if that's the Nikki Love, my sister Nikki Love from New York that moved to Atlanta that got the radio station. Hey, shout out Nikki Love and her husband. Yeah, so man, because Nikki Love was the first one that brought me on her show in New York, right when she was in New York. She's the first one that brought me on her show, and they was real big. Her and this other her sister, they Wu Nam, you know what I'm saying? Y'all already know what that Wu Nam is. They put that Wu Nam on you. If a woman got that Wu Nam and she put it on you, man, you hooked. They put that Wu Nam on you. They are wizards, high power alchemists. Because Columbus was the spy, but Peter the black. Yeah, so you talking about like the Nino brothers and all of them, they were really, some of them their families were being held captive in Grenada. And they were forced to help Columbus, the agent, sell over here. And they had to be already coming over here if they got hired to help Columbus. They had to already be coming over here. These guys, Nino brothers. And so, like I say, some of their families, because you gotta go back and get to 1492, April Fool's Day, when they fake like they was gonna let the righteous Moors leave, and then they exterminated most of them and then kept the navigators and their families and held them hostage because they couldn't let the righteous Moors leave, because the righteous Moors would have came over here, alarm the Barber Moors that, hey, these people just overthrew Grenada, so they're gonna try to come over here and fly the Grenada flag. The Barber Moors would have shut them down. They would have never made it over here. So they had to exterminate all the Moors so they couldn't go and tell no other Moors that what the game was. And that's how they was able to false flag. Okay, you from Florida, okay. Okay, all right. Man, they can't do that. Pee-wee, they can't do that because they will throw off, the whole earth would go out a bit wet. We are the salt. We are the seasoning. We are the rhythm of the earth. The whole planet to go out of whack. So they want to control us. It's not about it's completely exterminating. It's control. Man, without us, what would they have? They wouldn't have blues, rap, none of that. All the best actors. They wouldn't have nothing. Name one thing they would have without us besides nuclear weapons and weapons of mass destruction. And we put that together too. Go in little Inky son, Nergal, and Enlil's son, then Ertu start building the atomic bombs, and they use it on allegedly, they say in the Bible, on Sodom and Gomorrah. They use the nuclear blast. So what do they got without us? We created everything. Without us, if they gonna get rid of us, they kind of get rid of God. You can't get rid of God. We God. How you gonna get rid of God? Can't get rid of God. God gonna always be. We was the first and we'll be the last. Like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said. We the cream of the crop, the makers of the universe. The best of the best. And for you people that's listening that think you white and black is not even a race. But check I'm gonna tell you who we are. You want color don't really matter because the people that came over here looked like us, but they wasn't us. The Moors were our color, but then they did us like they did. So color don't really matter. It's the blood. The spirit is in the blood. Test the spirit by the spirit. The spirit is in the blood. What's your blood type? Is he a type O? If type O is our blood type. The Moors were type B. The dirty Moors were type B. And they mixed in with us. It's the killer. So some of y'all may have a AB because the Moors mixed in with us. A O negative. So the devil mixed in with us. So that's why Doc eventually said that if we all got to have an exorcism where we exorcise the devil out of us. Get the devil out of our system. And then when we get through doing when we get through with all that, we'll find out that there's no number but one. Everybody, every ant, every blade of grass, every human being, no matter what color, what you look like, how you shaped, are a part of the all. The all and the all is. And how can you take them out of the all? Because where would you put it? Where would you put those people that you try to delete? White, black, whoever. Where would you put them once you delete them in the all? Besides back in the all. And on that note, we out. Free Malachi Z. York, man. Trump. Free Malachi Z. York, Trump. We out. Peace and love. Wadu.